Is surveyed the situation and understood that with this action, with this strike, that he would create a giant smokescreen that clouds and distracts around the issue of impeachment.
You know, when some people die, you don't know what the impact's going to be. When Princess Diana died, for example, there was a huge emotional outpouring. Elvis Presley in our culture. It turns out that this general we killed was a beloved hero of the Iranian people, to the point where, look at the people we got pictures of now, these enormous crowds coming out. There's no American emotion in this case, but there's a hell of a lot of emotion on the other side.
He was a war hero, the commander of Iran's feared Quds force.
Qasem Soleimani was no ordinary general. The U.S. officially classified him as a terrorist, but in Iran, he was a national hero.
I feel ill a little bit because of everything that is taking place, and I think every time I hear of conversations around war, I find myself being stricken with PTSD.
Good morning, Robin. I have been in the midst of anti-American protests in Iran before, but nothing like this. A powerful combination of grief and anger with shouts of death to America echoing through the streets around us.
He's regarded as personally incredibly brave. The troops love him.
I was trying to think of somebody, and I was thinking of de Gaulle.
A revered figure in Iran and some other places in the Middle East.
Smart, charismatic, ruthless, strategic, and bold. His power made Iranians proud.
You know, Russia has been implicated under Putin with assassinating dissidents. So once you're in the business of assassination, you unleash some very, very terrible forces.
Soleimani was in charge of spreading Iranian influence around the world, and he was extremely good at it.
He is think of the French Foreign Legion, if you will.
By killing Qasem Soleimani, the U.S. has stripped Iran of an inspirational military leader.
President Trump recklessly assassinated Qasem Soleimani. He had no evidence of an imminent threat or attack.
And as girls, things can happen to our bodies that are not our choice. And I wouldn't have been able to do this without employing a woman's right to choose.
But the people who wrote the Constitution did not understand that slavery was a bad thing and did not respect civil rights.
There's two ways people know when something is important. One, when it's so clear when it's passed that everybody understands it. No one did understand Obamacare, including the way it was rolled out, and the gentleman's right. He said you could keep your doctor if you wanted to, and you couldn't keep your doctor if you wanted to necessarily. He's dead right about that.
I have, unfortunately, responsibilities to save our country.
Okay, I want to thank Steve Deese. He's the one that his program put that together for Blaze TV. I just totally stole it from the website because I thought it was appropriate. That was the week last week with Democrats in the country, and that was members of the press. And what's interesting about this is that there's all these fact checks out there. And I found kind of funny that you would even fact check these sorts of things. But we've now gotten to the point where we just fact check everything. Like the president retweeted an obvious fake meme of Pelosi and Schumer. she was wearing, obviously, a traditional Islamic garb. They were standing in front of the Iranian flag, and he tweeted it out. And again, he just retweeted a meme, and it was a joke. So when I posted about it on Twitter, I was like, here come the fact checks. And sure enough, people are fact checking. They didn't actually do this. Yeah, no kidding. It's an obvious Photoshop. It's not even well done. That's the whole point of it. We're at a point now where we have to make our memes so low quality so as to not confuse the other side that we were taking them seriously, because they keep getting really upset about all of these things. Boogaloo, which, by the way, is in the title of this live stream today, which has a very specific meaning regarding not just civil war or conflict with the government, but also politics. But now what's happening is the media is redefining what Boogaloo means. So they're going out there and they're changing the definition of it. Now it's a far right or an alt-right call for revolt and revolution. Of course, that's not what it is, but I digress. That's just, it is what it is. You know, whenever the press doesn't like something that is catching on, they either say that this is code for some white supremacist alt-right thing, Or they say radical groups have now basically circumvented the original meaning. They've co-opted what this actually is defined as, and we can no longer use these perfectly normal, long-standing definitions, words, terminology that we have had in our culture and our society forever. Because just, a couple of people on social media or whatever have said some bad things, and we don't like what they have said, and therefore we're just going to go ahead and throw it all out. And that's just kind of where we're at. So they're running around and they're fact-checking all of this stuff, and there was some cartoons that were floating around about, and I posted one of them on my new Instagram today, where you have the American press crying, and somebody's asking, is that the Iranian media? No, it's the U.S. media. They're crying about Soleimani's death. And there's fact checks out there saying that nobody in the media were kind of mourning his death. Yeah, you did. You expressed sorrow and sadness, and you played these clips of him citing poetry, and you talked about all of the amazing things he did in his community and all of that stuff. Hey, every tyrant does good things in their community. Every single one of them. Hitler was known for doing really good things for the right Germans, okay? Stalin did some really good things for the right communists, okay? Everybody, like I said, there's no universal good, no universal bad when it comes to human beings. There's always a mix of it. It depends on, do you have more bad or more good? Is your bad evil, or is it just you're a jerk? That sort of thing. Is your good just, go along to get along, or is your good really, almost saintly? And this is what they do. So they twist it all up. So that's just a little montage that Steve Dees put together for his program from the press last week, since they're trying to say that none of that happened. It absolutely happened. And they're still running around. Now, you got the CEO of some Canadian food company, I guess, has a friend who lost their wife in that airline that was now admittedly shot down by the Iranians. So Iran has finally admitted that they did shoot it down. Human error. We'll get to that here in just a second. Of course, you want to respond to any of that, feel free to do so. 574-25-95-95-3. Be happy to take your phone call. But they're running around and trying to fact-check this stuff. They absolutely did it. 100%. So Iran admits that they shoot this airplane down, and everybody is still running around trying to blame Trump for it. Iran adopted the American media talking point, and what many prominent Democrats, including those who are running for office right now, had adopted was that this was all Donald Trump's fault. And this CEO of this Canadian food company, he did that too. He said, it's Donald Trump's fault that my friend's wife is now dead, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And once again, the Iranians started it. The Iranians killed hundreds of Americans. The Iranians killed an American the day that we launched the attack. And the Iranians are the ones that did not secure their airspace from civilian aircraft immediately after launching a military strike on a foreign country. So, and then the Iranians shot it down. That's all them, okay? That's not us. That's them. And this goes back to what I've been saying now for some time. Nobody who is expressing outrage about our response to what Iran has done, nobody had that outrage when Iran was doing those things. None of them did. They were all pretending that we were all, we were all great. We all got along. There was no issues. I almost said we're kosher, but I don't think I'm allowed to say that without being accused of being bigotry, since we're talking about Persians here. But if you are dealing with a terrorist regime that has killed hundreds of your people, maimed hundreds, maybe thousands more, is carrying out terrorist attacks, killed an American that day, okay, was attacking an embassy that day, had data that suggested they were going to attack other targets here in the short future. And Dan Crenshaw, representative, he was talking about how he basically called out Adam Schiff. And he said, I was there when they presented the intelligence to you. And there was, according to our intelligence community, there was an imminent threat of attack by Soleimani. So again, we have come from, you're unpatriotic if you don't believe every single thing that the FBI and the CIA says. That's what the Democrats are trying to say when we uncovered this conspiracy against the president. You're unpatriotic if you don't believe every single solitary word that the intelligence community has to say. To now, we don't believe what the intelligence community told us about Soleimani and imminent threats on American lives. Those are the same Democrats, the literal same ones, not broad stroking it here, the exact same people. Like Adam Schiff, prime example. And when they give a press conference and they go, we don't have any data, that's not what the intelligence community presented to members of Congress. They presented them with something entirely different. And the people who are in that meeting have made it very clear that, yeah, they presented us evidence that they believe there was an imminent threat of attack and that we needed to respond. We've learned a lot more about the attack, actually. We also, again, we have confirmation that the Iranians did, in fact, shoot down the plane. They're now blaming human error after initially denying this entire thing and trying to cover it up by bulldozing the site. And then, of course, blaming President Trump for the entire thing by adopting the American media talking points on this, and presidential candidates for the Democratic Party, their talking points on it. And now they finally admitted that they did, in fact, shoot it down. Ukraine's ticked. Ukraine is demanding all sorts of stuff. But, whether they get it, we'll see. But we've also learned that the president authorized this strike months ago. And I'll tell you why. Coming up, News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.